Hi, this is On Imagination with the Healing Garden, and welcome to Shifting. This is not Shifting Perspectives. Welcome to Philosophical Coffee. If you are new to my show, this is an all-in-one healing show where I provide information, education, instruction. There is journaling, meditation, positive affirmations, encompassing the entire show. It's about 90 minutes to 2 hours. I do this every morning. I've been talking about courage. I've been talking about, and there's 12 ethics. There are 12 ethical perspective stages of growth. These stages are Mother Nature. It's intellectual evolution that occurs naturally in every human being. This is predictable science. It's solid. And the majority of us are between the second and fourth perspective. The black sheep have fallen into the fifth and sixth perspective. A perspective has a culture all into itself. It has its own language. It has its own values, priorities, culture, style. And once you familiarize yourself with the different perspectives, you can literally start to see the perspectives in each and every one of us. These perspectives are the number one cause of conflict, abuse, misunderstanding, literally everything. They are on several scales. There is the individual scale, there is the village scale, societal scale, government scale. Our human eras revolve around them. Our societal ages and eras revolve around these scales. They are amazingly solid. And once you start to understand what each one of them means and what happens if they become compromised, opens up the world to mental illness. Once you start putting them back together again, the mental illness literally goes away. Most mental illnesses are contributed to the first three ethics. The fourth ethic I just recently discovered that there is particularly one mental illness that comes from the fourth ethic. But priorities shift by the time you get to the fifth and the sixth perspective. There's a massive shift that takes place between the fourth and fifth. And I refer to these as foundationals. That's your first four perspectives, because it's the foundation of a society, an individual, a culture. It's everything to have these four foundations in place. The next ones, 5 and 6, I call these the cultivator, because people who are in this mindset tend to gravitate toward teaching roles, toward healing roles. And that is where you start to shift value and priority onto other people. The first 4 ethical perspectives do not value others. They can't. They struggle to really internalize what it means to value other people without selfish purposes. And due to the way our society revolves, there's a lot of problems with, bottom line, consent. A society builds or burns on the concept of consent, and we're burning. Consent, when translated, is actually about authority. It is self-authority. That is what consent is. And when you start to become aware of how self-authority is virtually consent, and then you start to break down how much in our lives are non-consensual, a lot is going to start to make sense. So that's one of the things I'm going to be focusing on today, is how to identify non-consent. And I'm not just talking about sexual consent. I am talking primarily about non-consensual listening, non-consensual teaching, non-consensual working, non-consensual staying, non-consensual leaving. There are hundreds of activities that we do every day, and the majority of us do them because we feel we have to do them, because we've been bullied to do them, threatened to do them, because we've been told that if we don't do them, the consequences are going to be substantial. So we are making choices non-consensually out of fear instead of desire. As soon as you make a choice out of fear, it's no longer consent. Bottom line. If you are making a choice out of sheer joy and love, Now it's consent. So when you start to really think about how many choices you make every day because you want to, now you can start to break it down. And consent, when you translate it, as I said, it's all about self-authority, and it's how you manage and navigate your own self-authority, which for most of us, it has been compromised since we were children. There's five really major primary elements that come into play with a person's mental health. And this is true for parenting, this is true for children, for adults, for every circumstance you can think of. And the first one is authority. The authority, again, is the consent. It is the ability to make a choice for yourself. The second one is autonomy. Autonomy is the defined identity. It is everything that you are for you. It is how you are different. It is the uniqueness of an individual. It is the individuality. The next one we have is value. Value is vital to placing importance on things. It is vital to ensuring that things get done. And it is vital to making sure that it gets the attention something needs. If you don't value mental health, you're not going to have good mental health. If you don't value another person, you're not going to treat that person with the same respect as you do other people. So it changes. Once you understand the value, the importance of value, it's a game changer. But again, this is something that comes in once you hit that sixth perspective. The sixth perspective are the people who literally, they're the ones who value others. It's the element that graduates you from fifth perspective to sixth perspective, is when you realize that other people matter. No one who does not cross from the fifth perspective learns that lesson, that other people matter. This is the vital, foundational cornerstone of the fifth perspective's lesson that gets you to the sixth perspective, that other people matter. Now, with that comes accountability. And it's why you gain accountability, is because you realize other people matter. And you suddenly start taking an inventory of how you have treated other people. When you do this, a lot of people, especially people who lack the first ethic, are plagued with a massive amount of guilt. And that's where self-loathing comes in. The challenge of the sixth perspective, the lesson to be learned on the sixth perspective, is self-value. It's realizing that they are also a people and they also matter. Ironically, this is really important. We value others first. We value ourselves second. And it is only until we reach a point of absolute self-loathing that we finally realize, oh, I need to turn my life around and actually prioritize myself. Because you end up walking all over yourself. And that's exactly what happens with six perspectives, is you end up walking all over yourself because you are making sure everybody else gets a say except yourself. You literally elevate and put everybody's voice on a platform except your own. And as a result, you remain silent while everyone gets a turn to talk. There's a huge part of all of this, which is responsibility. But it's not used. It's being used here in a way that we're not very familiar with. There's the ownership of your system. There's the awareness of your system. And then there's the responsibility of your system. And if you don't value your system, if you're not aware of it, you're not going to do any work on it. And understanding where your responsibility is really, I really want to dig deep into responsibility, because this is really where a lot of courage comes in. These are the elements of courage. This is where it all starts. When you decide, I'm going to do something different, I'm going to have the power and the authority to overcome where I am now, to carry my journey further, that's courage. And we are born into a state of pure comfort and luxury. And we stay there, literally having our lives pampered, until and unless we decide that we're bored with comfort. And that is pretty much it. We have to become bored with comfort. That is when we feel anxious for sitting still because we want to move. Anxiety is an emotion that is supposed to be felt in very small doses after boredom to tell you it's time to go. But if you have a fear of discomfort, you're not going to go anywhere. So you have to have the courage to overcome your fear to pursue adventure. And this is really the crux of the first and the second perspective is comfort and adventure. Comfort is closed, adventure is open. Comfort is I was going to say teaching, but it's really not. It is just like a 0 point. It's really like a starting point. And then when you adventure, you're opening your mind. That is a big part of it. There's a lot. I'm in the middle of the second perspective for the U of I right now, and it's extraordinary to get this kind of a perspective. And with me going over the first, the second perspectives, it gives me an entirely new light to what's going on with that first perspective. And comfort is such a big deal because comfort is literally the med kit for life. And if you don't have a med kit for life, and that's exactly what a comfort zone is. That's what I call it a genie bottle because I love the fantasy of it. But a comfort zone, and here's it is comfort zone has gotten so abused by our culture that we don't really process what it is. So I call it a genie bottle because comfort zones are basically mocked in our culture. You got to get out of your comfort zone. And that's what we hear a lot of it out. So there's no real definition of comfort zone. People associate it with, oh, you're not going to grow there. Well, no, you're not going to grow there, but the comfort zone is vital. The comfort zone has purpose. It is your med kit for life. And it's not something you want to throw away, abandon, and permanently stay out of. And I've seen people do that where they think it's toxic. The comfort zone, first of all, everything here is toxic if it's not in variables. And that's literally the lessons of the 12 perspectives. I want to go through at some point and do a full graph and I will be doing this. I just have to do it where I have access to a whiteboard. So basically, you're in a whole lot of comfort over here. And then you finally get a surplus of comfort. And this is full economics. The 12 ethical perspectives 100% revolve around optic physics and economics. 100%. Once you understand how this is just economics and optic physics, like human psychology suddenly makes so much sense. So we are mirrors. We are mirrors. And we have to have a surplus before we get sick of it. And that's really it. You want a surplus to get sick of it. Oh, you know what? I just realized something. I had somebody ask me, how do you switch perspectives? How do you move to the next one? And I've been trying to explain it to her. And I finally remembered. So to shift perspectives, to switch into the next stage, you have to an indulgence. You have to have a surplus of X so that you see the value of Y. And in the 9th perspective, there's a reason why I'm jumping to the 9th perspective. The surplus of you want emotions. You want emotions. In the 9th perspective, you crave emotions. You have to crave the emotions. See, I just start from the beginning and I just go through all of them. So in the first perspective, you have a surplus of comfort and you crave adventure. And then in the second perspective, you have a surplus of adventure and you crave balance. You get the balance And then you learn, you unlock the emotion vulnerability. And that makes you crave personal law to protect yourself from the vulnerability, or to protect yourself when you're vulnerable. So you crave personal law. You crave personal law until you have so much, oh, I see now. You're supposed to learn personal law. So you crave rules to project your ability to control other people onto yourself. That way you stay safe when you're vulnerable. So you crave law and order. And so you have a bunch of rules. And you have so much rules that you get sick of the rules. And so you value personal freedom. You value personal freedom. And at this point, you should have your own personal laws, which we'll go over that. But you then indulge on personal choice. And then you get so much personal choice that you end up hurting others, and you value other people. And then when you value other people, you basically stomp all over yourself, and you elevate everybody to hear everybody's voice except your own. And you get so much noise from other people during the sixth perspective that you crave silence. And when you crave silence, you switch to the seventh perspective. What you're really craving is solitude at that point, is time alone with the self. And then you have so much silence that you crave effective communication. This is the eighth perspective. So you switch over to effective communication. And then you talk so much that you become an asshole. True story. And you realize this is when you learn real advanced communication skills. This is when you blow social anxiety out of the water. This is why so many people have social anxiety, is because they never made it to the eighth perspective. Social anxiety ends at the eighth perspective. And you master the ability of succinctness. You can say anything in like 2 minutes. It's extraordinary. It is why my articulation is where it is because of the eighth perspective. Everyone can get here. This is achievable. After you complete the eighth perspective, you are so sick of talking all the time that you appreciate the balance, and you crave the balance of silence and talking. And in so doing, you enter the ninth perspective, where you discover the concept of sharing. Yes, this is it. This is where we learn sharing our audience, sharing giving and taking, sharing how many times, sharing conversation, basically. And then you crave emotions. You really do. You crave emotions. I don't know what precisely happened in the ninth perspective that it was suddenly, okay, I want all the emotions now. And I think what it was it was a suppression of all emotions during the ninth perspective and the eighth perspective, that it was like, all right, I crave emotions. And then you go, this is fun. You go 100% all emotions. All emotions, every emotion is right. And it is, every emotion is right. And you value all the emotions. And all the emotions have to be present for a reason. So you let all the emotions, and you start to feel how the emotions ebb and flow inside of you. It's beautiful. And you're like, oh, look at all the emotions. It's like you're standing in a forest and you summon all of the birds and all of the animals of the forest, and they all come to you. And this is the emotional 10th stage. It's wonderful. If you're going to feel angry, you be angry, because apparently you got to be angry. And then you get so tired of all the emotions that you crave logic. But you keep the concept of, oh, yes, all the emotions are always right, but I really want some logic now. So then you crave logic. This is the 11th perspective. And then you have so much logic that you value the balance of both. And now you're in the 12th perspective. And then you find love. Literally, love is what you find when you accumulate, because when you get to the 12th perspective, you're not just accumulating emotional logic, you are also accumulating all of the 12 perspectives. And all of these 12 beautiful things combined make self-love. And then you're in this happy, beautiful place. As soon as you find self-love literally creates comfort. Self-love creates comfort. It casts you into the next perspective, and that is comfort. and everything is comfort and everything is beautiful because you are in love. I would say the first stage is the puppy dog stage or the honeymoon stage. That's exactly it. It's the honeymoon stage. Oh, I see what this is. And then once you max out that comfort zone, you're back into, okay, I crave adventure. And the cycle starts itself. Now, the first time you go through the cycle, you're going to go through with the self. It's just going to be you and yourself. This is there's two levels of the self. There's the external level, and then there's the internal level. And that is something that I have never talked on before. So this is going to be something I cover today, is the two levels of the self. Everybody is familiar with the external level. Everyone hears and reads about the external level. But there is an internal level that's happening. That's a whole nother thing. After you complete the 12 perspectives of the self, then you choose a partner, a mirror, and you get to go through the 12 perspectives with them. And you learn how to integrate a relationship into this while you're building it. It is extraordinary. And then after that, it gets into the they of I, which is when you integrate the partnership now into a community. And then after that's done, it goes into the all of I, which is that omniscient point of view. That I believe is when we get to the hive mind and we're all going to be connected with ESP. That's when we become the Borg. All right, so comfort is, you can't have courage to sally forth if you don't stabilize your comfort. And this is where a lot of people with their healing, they miss this part. And it's because they don't have the established comfort. We have this real mentality inside of us of get out of your comfort zone, get out of your comfort zone, get out of your comfort zone. So a lot of people feel the pressure to get out of their comfort zone before they're ready. Now we're going to cover a couple things. There is something called exposure therapy. Exposure therapy is very, very good psychological therapy, and it can be very dangerous, really dangerous. It can cause damage. It can cause more harm than good. And then it can re-traumatize you. So I cannot emphasize to you enough how dangerous improper exposure therapy is. And the only way exposure therapy works effectively is two things. One, you have to have your comfort zone established and defined. You have to know how to use your comfort zone effectively. And the second thing, you have to do it in small doses. But what's happening is a lot of people in our culture is screaming at us that, oh, you got to get out of your comfort zone. You're not going to grow. So what they're really doing in a situation like that, without them knowing it, is they are actually encouraging a lot of people to take the plunge before they're ready, to do exposure therapy long before they have the tools. And that in most cases, it sets them up for failure. It sets them up for trauma. It sets them up for constantly pushing themselves before they're even rested. The majority of people who are looking, no, I'm going to do it. All of the people who look for mental health and healing are craving and starved for comfort. And rightly so. These are not skills that we know about. These are not skills that we teach. And the internet is incompetent when it comes to providing helpful direction and information. The tool is highly effective, but the information has not been conveyed properly. A comfort zone is not something that's bad. It is something that is supposed to be used in balance with your adventure zone. And that is all that the first and the second perspective is your comfort zone and your adventuring zone, because that is what's coming next. But if you're not ready, and here's the thing, when you have the urge to adventure, when you want to go adventure, then it's time. If you don't want to adventure, it's because you are at a deficit of comfort. So we're going to go right into economics with this. If you think about comfort and adventure as inventory, you're going to have a surplus and you're going to have a deficit. And what you really want is a nice balance. Let's call this the demand and supply chain, because this is exactly what it is. It is the supply and demand. And your emotions are communicating supply and demand. That is 100% what your emotions are. They are the communication of inventory. And once you know how to read your emotions using economics and supply and demand, your emotions are going to make a lot more sense to you. We're also going to cover how to handle your emotions and what to do with them. So your emotions are actual communications from your subconscious mind to tell you what your inventory levels are. And you either have a surplus or a deficit. Now, some of the things that get inventoried is safety and danger, adventure and comfort. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, that is about it. Let me check my logic center because I'm pretty sure I got nothing else here. So give me just a minute. I was expecting there to be much more, but just give me a minute. It's checking out. There you go. You got 4. This is the one thing I absolutely love about this is it's simple. It's really simple. There's 4. So you either are safe or danger, comfort, adventure. That's all you got. I'm really trying here. Oh, maybe there is one more. One moment. There is one more. I got to figure out. Okay, I got it. I got it. All right, I got it. All right. The other one is undefined. There, that's it. Undefined. There's one more. Undefined. So there's 5. So you have undefined. And then you've got safety, danger, comfort, adventure. Undefined. I really struggle with undefined. I really, really struggle with undefined. Every time something comes up, I know I define it. And I bypass the realization, and I move so fast that I bypass the concept that things are undefined. And I don't wait for them. I move on too fast. And as a result, twice now, I've had to completely revamp my work because I'm like, oh, I forgot about the undefined variable. Here I am again. So the undefined is vital. You must have that category. And we're going to cover what all of these are. So when you get an emotion, they cover one of these 5 locations. And once you understand which emotion comes from what, and then how to manage it, you're set. So here's how it works. Fear is undefined. Every time. No exception. Boredom is adventure. Anxiety is adventure. Anger is danger. Frustration is danger. Confusion is undefined. Love. You know, my daughter said something to me the other day out of the blue. She paused Stranger Things and she goes, "Isn't comfort just safety?" Well, comfort is safe. Yeah, it might be. Yeah. And here I am right now going, love is, and I'm going, it's safe and it's comfort. And there's my daughter's voice going, isn't comfort just safety? So and that's your voice, Liz. So love is comfort and safety. Joy is comfort and safety. Annoyance is danger. Hatred is undefined. Prejudice is undefined. Danger is also associated very closely to undefined. And this is where a lot of people struggle with separating danger and undefined, because there's defined danger and then there's undefined danger. And please listen to me. The undefined, we are supposed to remain objective and without prejudice, but we don't. Too many people subconsciously conclude that undefined equals danger. And so they respond to undefined as if there was danger when there's not. This is due to prejudice, which is fear, which is undefined. When you start to separate danger from undefined and you shift into objective with undefined, you open something called curiosity and you make way for adventure. Instead of associating danger with the undefined, you need to associate adventure with the undefined. This is vital to growth, healing, development, parenting, teaching, living. I cannot emphasize this part enough, that adventure must replace danger when it comes to the undefined. It must. Because fear closes the mind. Fear absolutely closes the mind. Adventure opens it. Adventure is actually the second learning perspective stage of growth. The second perspective is called the learning perspective. The first perspective is called the comfort perspective. Now, once you understand all of these perspectives, this is my favorite part about these perspectives, is you start to realize how everybody is in one of these perspectives. And you'll be able to look at your son and go, oh, he's just in the learning perspective. Oh, he's in the comfort perspective. Oh, he's in the adventuring perspective. Once you start to realize which perspectives are where, it is massive amounts of understanding come in, massive amounts of tolerance, celebration come in. And you can start to see your children actually grow through the stages. It's really cool. You also learn to not interfere or tamper with them. Likewise, you also will be going through them. And I have a very friendly race going on with one of my friends where she's in the 9th perspective. And she's like, how do you do it? And I'm like, so I'm like teaching her how to, basically you just need a surplus. It's just inventory. It's just economics. This is where economics and psychology are like this. Once you understand that you just need a surplus until you get sick of it, so you swing the other way, and you need to know what is surplus, which I'll be covering with you over the next year. I have this all on my website, so you can go through if you want to see it now. But for this one, it's for the first perspective, it's comfort. You need a surplus of comfort. I'm going to say that one more time. You need a surplus of comfort. And until you get bored, you want to get to the state of boredom. Literally think of it as indulging on candy until you want. This is it exactly. It's indulging on candy until you want vegetables. That is exactly what it is here. So you basically want to get a surplus of comfort. You want to become so comfortable that you are bored with comfort so that you trigger the next episode, the next stage of growth, and you get into the adventuring zone. And then you want so much adventure that you appreciate the balance of both. So, stage one is really all about indulging yourself in the lap of luxury. It is being a glutton on every one of these stages of growth. That is literally the goal. You are to appreciate and indulge. That is the goal with every one of these perspectives. You want to appreciate and indulge in comfort. Now, this is where a lot of people feel guilt because we have a society where gluttony is wrong. There is a list of words that are used to control us, and gluttony is one of those words. Gluttony is not wrong, not even a little bit. And once you start to really break down how these words are being used to manipulate and control and keep us from growing, it changes everything. So gluttony is good. It is fantastic. And I'll be covering that later because it is like, so the reason why we have such a problem with comfort is because we were made to feel guilt with comfort. And so a lot of people, bottom line, this is pretty much the psychological makeup is you had comfort taken away. You were told that you shouldn't have it. And then there's a lot of, comfort zone is something that is bad because you can't grow. So you are forced to leave the comfort zone prematurely. But at the end of the day, I remember when I was doing this, I was going through my own healing. I was not doing well. I was burnt out. I was exhausted. My partner was burnt out and exhausted. We were both taking turns carrying the relationship. At first, it was fantastic. And then he was carrying the relationship until it broke him. And then I carried the relationship until it broke me. And then we both just put the relationship down and we said, fuck this shit. And we just sat there with each other. And then we both rested. It's been a very interesting journey. And that's where we are now is we both put the relationship down. We kind of threw the relationship completely away. And now we're just sitting next to each other going, all right. And we're resting. And now we're both indulging in comfort. And now, I feel fucking fantastic. He's feeling fucking fantastic. And so now we're in this indulging stage of, and this is really, you have your energy, you have your exhaustion, you have your comfort, and then you have adventure. And this is really the trifecta of comfort. I had to go through my example to really process the big picture. And there it was. It is the exhausted, burned out, and then comfort. And then from there, it's adventure. Now, this is where our jobs and our jobs really fuck us up a bit. You're exhausted, you're drained, you're miserable. You go on vacation, you barely rest up, and then you go back to work and you're exhausted on the first day. Why is that? I will explain why. The emotion joy gives you energy. The end. If you don't have joy, you're not going to have energy. I was watching my daughter. She's been on this cycle now for a while. She's home from school today. She's taking a mental health day because I'm tired of sending her to a place where the teachers abuse and bully her and not the students. And I watched her have trauma, crying with panic and anxiety attacks the day before school started from holiday. The morning of, she was having a panic attack and anxiety. Every time she gets home from school, she takes like a 4-hour nap. And yesterday, She was upset because she passed out, and she's like, I don't understand. I slept for 4 hours. I'm exhausted. Now I have to do like 6 hours worth of homework, and it's 9 o'clock at night. And I said to her, I watched you have a panic attack 2 days prior to going to school. Well, I said to her, this is trauma related. And she got very upset with me at first because she was like, stop blaming it on my trauma. And I'm like, no, I mean, the school is traumatizing you. Look at you. You're having a panic attack for going back. And she went, oh. I said, you're sleeping 4 hours when you get home from school every day? Excuse me. And I said, one moment. And I said, like, do I need to go talk to the school? Do we need to completely redo your schedule because, like, they're traumatizing you, which is why you're sleeping when you get home. It's because there's no joy. When you are drained, it's because you're not enjoying it. I get this a lot with people where they'll do a lot of work. They'll have fun. And then and this is what fun is. Fun is joy. And if you do not have fun, if you do not have joy, you are not going to get energy. It is going to drain you, which is why our jobs exhaust us, because they're not fun, because we're not enjoying them. And when you are exposed to something over and over again without joy, it causes trauma. Yes, schools and learning and education today is traumatizing our children. Our day jobs, our 9-to-5 jobs, are traumatizing our citizens. There's no joy. Joy is under safety and comfort, by the way. And you don't learn if you are not in the adventure and the safety comfort. Those are the only two places you get to learn, is safety, comfort, adventure. If you've switched over to danger undefined, well, danger, you're not going to, nope, you're not going to learn. Once you start feeling exhausted all the time, you're done. You're done. Employees can't train. Employees can't learn. Employees can't process. People can't process. People can't learn, which is why one of the reasons why we're only obtaining a fraction of the learning material is because it is a dangerous, toxic, unenjoyable society. Our schools have literally evolved into a place of toxic danger. For God's sakes, we have school shootings. Because there's no fun, because there's no joy, there's going to be a significant lack of energy. When you are exhausted, it is not because you're not getting enough sleep. And this is where everybody has this wrong. Psychologists and doctors have this wrong. Oh, you're sleeping a lot. Oh, you're exhausted. No. Joy gives you energy. If you are not enjoying, you're going to be exhausted and drained. It's not depression. It is just a lack of joy. So you're going to sleep for 4 hours in the afternoon. You're going to have a massive spike of exhaustion and sleep deprivation without actually having sleep deprivation. And it's not depression. It is just draining because there's no joy. It is vital to have the emotion joy because joy is pure energy. It is the only emotion that gives energy. And without it, you're not going to have it. So once you understand that you do things that you enjoy, once you understand that when you adventure and you enjoy the adventure, when you learn and you enjoy it, when you do a job that you enjoy, when you are with people who you enjoy, that's going to fuel you because you're getting energy from that. But take out that joy, game over. Just not going to work for you. So understanding that's the first thing. You have your exhausted, you have your comfort, and then you have your adventure. So the exhausted is simply the lack of joy. So most people who come to, and this is really the question is, do you have a deficit of joy? That is really the question you need to ask. Do you have a deficit of joy? And your comfort zone is going to play into this. That's part two. So a lot of people, when they start therapy, a lot of people, when they start self-care and healing, they're exhausted, they're burnt out, they're done. They are absolutely in need of a comfort zone. And the comfort zone is literally your safety. It is a place where you can think of it as a massive respite, a break, a day spa, a stop the world, I want to get off. I know this is not compatible with our society. It's just not. You literally, this is how I did it. You literally have to leave the society to do this, which is what I did. So I get it that you cannot, in most cases, do this with an incompatible society. You have this comfort zone, and the comfort zone is basically a massive respite. And we should have had it when we were children, that first year of life, where we indulged in luxury. It's doing things you enjoy is really a big part of it, because you're energizing yourself. When I tell people to build their genie bottle, the two things I tell them first and foremost is do what you enjoy. You're grounding yourself and you're energizing yourself. This is where physics comes in. This is 100% energy physics. Literally. And you are a battery. It's not a imagine yourself. You are a battery. I have the physics to prove it. You are a battery. And when you have a battery, the battery needs to be grounded and energized. Joy is how you feed and fuel the energy, and you have to ground yourself to get the energy. That's how you hook a battery up. So, yeah, basically we're a bunch of depleted batteries because there's no joy. And joy is, due to emotional physics, joy is what gives us the energy that we need. So you're pumping yourself with joy. So whatever genie bottle you do, whatever comfort zone you do, you must play and create. Bottom line, you have to play and you have to create. You have to imagine. And you have to do these things with joy. In order to get joy, you have to want them. It starts with what do you want? And then imagine, play, create, really tap into your art side and get your imagination fueled. This is big. This is absolutely huge. This is like the core and the crux of it all. And scheduling is a huge part of it. Scheduling is as in no schedule, as in throw the schedule away, abandon the schedule. It is, and it's going to be, let me rephrase this. You're going to come up with a different kind of schedule. It's a different kind of clock. There's two clocks. There's the one that we are being abused with the minute hand, the second hand, and the you have to be here at 9 o'clock. And then there's your personal clock, your internal emotional clock. And I'm going to refer to this as your natural clock. And your natural clock is dictated by 100% your emotions. And that is gone through identity, what you want. What you want is 100% everything. Oh my God, is it? It is everything. Once you start to turn their clock off and you start to listen to your natural clock, go, and I do this. I'm huge on this. I don't have a schedule for when I do my morning show. It's when I get up and when I get my coffee and when I do my exercising and my yoga, that's when I jump onto the show. And the reason why is because I go by my natural clock. I don't go by a time slot. And the beautiful thing about our society, and I very much see this as being the thing, this is going to be the thing of the future. I can already see it. So it's mathematics. It's going to happen. It's logic and math. It's going to happen. What I see very clearly is where these natural clocks are going to become the clock for everybody. I'm telling you, like, we're looking at 10 to 20 years away. I'm so excited about this because the majority of people are starting to figure this out. And the concept of, well, what time? We're still going to use it. We're going to find that integral. We're going to find the balance between the two. And everything is extreme. We've had extreme abusive society. We're going to go the other side to extreme free-spirited society, to the integration of both. And this is where the clocks are really going to be a big part of this. Most everything is going to be that natural clock. And when we have a meeting, that's when we're all going to say, all right, let's synchronize our natural clocks. What time? But it's going to be really lax. Like, there's going to be like a 15-minute grace period. And if you don't show up, big deal. We'll record it and send you the recording. Like, we're talking really lax here. And that's the society we are walking into. Hang in there. We're going to get there. I promise you. It's evolution. We're going to get there. It is coming. It's just, we got to get really sick and tired of this garbage first. Surplus and then deficit. So it's absolutely beautiful. This is what I call the pendulum paradigm. This is how human beings learn. You have to have a surplus of A before you just get sick of it, and then you snap and you go to the other extreme. But once you understand this to the advantage, once you understand this in abuse, it puts so much power in your hands. Oh my God, this is everything everybody needs, because this is how this works. This is how we learn. This is everything about the human brain. This is gorgeous stuff. It's, all right, my child is going to eat all the candy. Great, you eat that candy. And here's the vegetables when you're ready. And it's self-management. It's self-regulation. This is how it's done. And then once you realize that we're doing it with our abuse, it becomes a whole, I see now how this is applying to my abuse. I received a surplus of forced politics. So now I'm way over here avoiding all politics. Now, go all the way over here. Do the avoidant thing. Find yourself, live in a place, but be open-minded to a point where realize that you're probably over avoidance. Be aware that you are probably over avoidance due to a trauma response. And that while there is good, this was a bad example, while there is good in politics, you really want the integration of both. And having something shoved down your throat was a bad experience, but the item itself, the subject itself was not bad. It was how it was being done. It is the how that traumatizes us. Oh my God, I cannot explain that enough. It is not the what that traumatizes, it's the how. I'm going to say that so many times. Just give me a moment. It's not the what that traumatizes us. It's the how. And a lot of people think it's the what. It's not the what. It's the how. It is the no consent. That is what traumatizes us. It is the not consent. It's when we have this pendulum paradigm in our brains, this pendulum learning style, and we're all going, oh, I don't enjoy Jules Verne. But your parents are going, no, you got to read Jules Verne, and they cram it down your throat. Now, you may have enjoyed it at first, but there's that surplus. Now, once you reach to the surplus, you're ready to go the other way, but you're not allowed to. So you're stuck. This is abuse. This is abuse. It's when you have your cup is full and you're ready to say, I've had enough. I'm ready to go over there now. And they don't let you. For my mother, it was religion. I had a full cup on religion and I still was required to take in more. So I went full aversion over here going, I don't want anything to do with your religion, because non-consensual forcing of my cup. It's not the what, it's the how. It was the fact that I was not allowed my pendulum to swing. So vital to trauma, so vital to our education, to our growth. Children are being forced into adults with their jobs. Your job has you way up here. You want to go home. You want to rest, but nope, they're going to get you more. It is the non-consent of having more than you can handle. It is non-consensual surplus. That is the problem with the world today. Every one of us suffers from non-consensual surplus. And we're ready to swing over to the other stage, and we're not allowed to, because we're slaves, we're prisoners, we're being blackmailed. We're being told, well, if you don't work, then you won't have the money to survive. That's slavery. That's entrapment. It's absolutely non-consensual surplus. And we immediately put it in our brains of the what. So we avoid the what, not processing that it's the how, that it's this non-consensual surplus. That's the problem. So we project our pain and our anger onto the concept, the what, and we start to associate. This is exactly how this is just trauma memory. We are basically triggered by the what, because the what becomes the associated trauma, but we're ignoring the how, and the how is where the problem is. The how is what rewires our brains for trauma. The how is where it's all fixed. Understanding that your authority was compromised with non-consensual surplus. Bottom line, that's it. That is it right there. That's it. This is it. Your authority was compromised with non-consensual surplus, because you need the authority. You must have the authority to go from non-consensual surplus to switch. You must have this power. You have to have it. Now, let's flip over to parenting for a minute. Your children don't want to eat their vegetables. I really hate the vegetable example. I really, really hate the vegetable example. Let's try something different. Your child wants to play. Your child wants to play. And then there is society. You are being pressured by society to do X. So you have to do X. But your child isn't ready yet. So unfortunately, society forces us to force our children to shift the child over. Non-consensual surplus. And this is the other side of, if you end up, basically you don't hit your surplus. This is the other side of it. You can get non-consensual surplus, but you can also get basically non-consensual deficit. There you go. It's non-consensual deficit. And that's when the child desires a surplus of something and they're told no. And that's where the child starts to object and scream. And we think, oh, well, my child is spoiled. Oh, well, you're throwing a tantrum. No, it is non-consensual deficit. Big difference. Big difference. And this is how we learn to self-regulate. This is self-regulation. It is the non-consent that they are objecting to, because because we are compromising their authority. That is what a tantrum is. It is the objection to compromising authority. It is absolutely logical. It is absolutely well within their rights, because it is self-regulation that is being compromised. This is what's going on at the core of toddlers when they throw tantrums. This is what's going on the core of any adult who throws a tantrum. Adults throw tantrums. And when you start to understand that all of this is about non-consensual surplus or non-consensual deficit, all because we have a society that says, here are the rules. Rule number 1, you're not allowed to be people. So there's a lot of non-consent going around, which is violating a person's authority. And the more tuned into a person's autonomy they are, the more they're going to feel this. Your autonomy makes you aware of this authority. You are so sensitive to your authority when you are autonomous. You require autonomy to feel this. The people who are most conformed have no autonomy. They were the ones who were abused so severely that their autonomy never kicked in, which is why they have no problems with the society, is because they have no autonomy. Autonomous. They're automatic, which is why they're not aware of what they're doing, because they're drones. They never even turned on. It is an extraordinary type of subconscious mind mechanism. They're literally robots. I cannot explain the psychology more clearly. When I say literal robot, I mean it. They lack autonomy because they're autonomous. And they are robot mind. This is where we see sheep. This is where we see followers. They're not following. You have to be consciously aware to follow. There's nothing there. Stupid doesn't even apply to them. That was something I learned yesterday. That stupid doesn't even apply, because you have to have autonomy to be stupid. They're not even there. It's quite extraordinary. So it's really a state of no autonomy, robotic, and being tuned in and being aware, having your autonomy and having authority. And once you have all of this down, and you start to understand non-consensual surplus, non-consensual deficit, and you focus on the how you were abused, whether it was non-consensual deficit, non-consensual surplus, which compromised your authority. Now you can address the problem. So back to the exhausted comfort adventure. The adventure is what happens when you get out of your comfort zone. We're not there yet. Oh my God, no, we are not there yet. Most people who come into therapy are in stage one. I'm so exhausted and burnt out. And they need to get to a comfort zone. They need a surplus of comfort. I mean, like a year living in the lap of luxury. How to do it? Become an entrepreneur. Really become an entrepreneur, become a business owner. Start changing things over in your life. And this is it. Take an inventory of your life. What don't you enjoy? What do you enjoy? If you can, cut it out if you don't enjoy it. If you can, cut it out. Cut out people. Cut out every little thing that does not give you joy. Bottom line, if it does not give you joy, it is draining you. Cut it if you can. Replace it with something that does give you joy. This is where hobbies come in. A lot of people, and this is our society, belittles hobbies. Hobbies are joy. Hobbies are vital to this process because your hobbies, I hate the word hobby. I don't even know where it comes from, but the word hobby is so abused that it undermines the importance. And this is where a lot of our words, they give importance to non-important things. Light pollution is a fantastic example of this. Light pollution, and I'm going to use this as an example of how words really, really detract. Pollution means to cause damage or harm to. There is no damage or harm from light pollution. It's, oh no, my view. Now, looking over at something like garbage and chemicals being spilled into the ocean, so we've got this massive land mass of garbage, that's causing damage. Big difference. So comparing massive amounts of garbage in the ocean that's killing and making animals extinct versus, oh no, my view. The word pollution in the sentence light pollution detracts from the value of the word pollution. So going over now to the word hobbies. Hobby is a word that devalues and detracts the importance of what's going on. So the concept of hobby, I really don't like the word because people think, oh, it's just leisure. It's not leisure, it's joy. Joy is your energy source. Literally, that's like food. It is food. It isn't like, it is not a simile. It is literally your soul food. It's such a huge part of your mental health. Joy is food. Food is joy. It's like you're eating. Oh, that's a hobby. It's food. You need it to nourish your body. Well, you need joy to nourish your mind. How are you doing with it? Like this is it right here. So when you are putting together your comfort zone, when you are building your genie bottle, really take an inventory of joy because joy is going to fuel you. It is literally your brain food. Joy is far more valuable than in most cases food itself. Think about how you feel if you skip a meal or two. Now think about how you feel if you are doing something you don't enjoy, which has a bigger impact immediately and long-term on your health. Food. I can eat junk food and Dorito chips for 2 weeks and be fine. True story. And I do sometimes. And I'm fine. But you give me something I don't enjoy for 10 minutes and I'm dead in the water. I'm like, nope, we're done here. I won't do that. Because it is so vital to our health. Joy is more important than food. Absolutely more important than food. And it's like so then we have our hobbies. Like our hobbies are the core of what we should be doing. Really increase those in value because those are really, those matter so much. They should be the very first things we do. They should be the last things we do. They should be the thing that we do. I hate watching TV. Like I can't, if I'm just, I can't stand it. Now I like to have it on in the background while I'm knitting. I love to listen to audiobooks while I'm knitting, but I have to knit. I have to do it. I have to play the piano. I have to sing. I have to dance. Because if I don't, I feel like a part of me is missing. Let's go back to autonomy for a minute. Your autonomy is you, and your joy is you. So when you're not doing what you enjoy, you are not spending time with you. When you do not have your joy, you don't have you. Yeah, that's why we feel lonely. That's why we feel abandoned. That's why we feel rejected. Abandonment is the emotion we feel when we have abandoned ourselves. It is the pining of the self. Loneliness is the pining of the self. It is when we are missing a piece of ourselves and we feel it so deeply that we have a hole inside of us, which is why no matter who we are with, we can't fill it. No matter what we do, we can't find it. No matter who we marry or how great our relationships are, we can't fill that hole, because abandonment and loneliness is a pining of the self. It is the self screaming, "Where am I?" So we end up chasing all of these people, trying to figure out how to fill this void in our lives. And we are not happy. Pursuit of happiness? No. Pursuit of self. That is happiness. And you don't get to feel that emotion until you have all 12 of these ethics internalized. Believe me, it is a joyous, holy shit. So every time you learn an ethic, you get a new emotion. True story. So it's wonderful. Every time you internalize a new ethic, you are gifted with a new emotion. I have them all listed so you can see which emotions you get with one. For instance, empathy is the 9th. When you get the 9th perspective, you get to feel the emotion empathy. The 9th perspective gives you empathy. It's beautiful. The 12th perspective internalized gives you love. The 1st perspective internalized in the you of I gives you happiness and joy for others. Those were the 2 that I just felt for the first time 2 days ago. And I was like, new emotions. I call them unidentified emotion X because it takes a couple days to figure out what emotions they are, because it's the first time you're going to feel them. And when you feel them for the first time, you're like, whoa, what are these things? You are going to get new emotions as you go through this. And you're going to be like, wow. And it's, oh my God. And it makes so much sense because you are missing emotions. That's what's wrong with you. You're missing emotions because you have to have the 12 ethical perspective stages to get these emotions. These are the rewards for doing this. So the pursuit of happiness is really the accomplishment of the 12 perspectives internalized so you can feel self-love, so you can feel joy, so you can feel happiness. And it fills that hole inside of you. A loneliness and abandonment go away. Suddenly you realize that abandonment, rejection, and loneliness don't exist. They do not exist at all in the exterior world. Not at all. This is where I was talking earlier about there being the internal self and the external self. And there is a lot where people are trying to nurture the external self. And external self is abandonment, loneliness, and rejection. And it's not. That's the internal self. Those are emotions that only exist with the internal self. But we chase down the external self and we chase down other people to fulfill the abandonment, the loneliness, and the rejection. And once you understand that when you feel those emotions, that is a red flag that you have got some personal work to do. And this is where our society teaches us, oh, you want to talk to a partner. Do not do that. No, you don't. That is called an emotional prosthetic. An emotional prosthetic is a term I invented to explain that we use other people for our emotional needs. That is not what people are for. People are not for our needs. Our needs, and this is where our society really has this all messed up. Romantic love is highly toxic. And it's got a lot of toxic concepts that basically fuel narcissism. For me, romantic love is synonymous with narcissist love. It's romance and narcissism is identical to my. It is. They are synonymous. I have a graph. It shows the identical nature between narcissism and romantic love. It's the same thing. As a result, all of these concepts of what we should be doing with people are actually narcissism. And needs is one of them. This is where we're going to talk a little bit about responsibility, because we think a partner is all of these things. You're supposed to have a partner to fulfill your needs. No, you're not. Because when you have a partner who fulfills all your needs, you end up rejecting the self. You end up self-sacrificing to make room for another person, which our culture and society, which is a narcissistic-based culture and society, encourage us to do, is to destroy the self. It's very, very self-sacrificial. And this is where the flip side of all of this is self-salvation, which is what I promote. Self-salvation is vital to your mental health. This is something that I call, that Pythagoras calls, called wisdom love. Wisdom love is self-salvation. It is the concept of building and nurturing the self, developing up in this gorgeous, healthy concept based off of these 12 ethical perspectives, so that you can then be a solid support for somebody you love. Support does not mean holding them up. It means standing side by side and being their cheerleader and encouraging them on, not enabling. Self-sacrificing is enabling to the detriment of the self. We also call that suicidal. That's another word for self-sacrifice. It's suicidal. It is absolutely self-destructive. You cannot, and that's the concept we hear today. You got to put your mask on first. That's it. Self-salvation, Pythagoras referred to as wisdom love, goes by another name called philosophy. When you translate the word philosophy properly, that's actually what the word means, is wisdom love. It is the construct, the education, and the learning of self-salvation and building up the self so that you know who you are. It is very powerful, very extraordinary. So an emotional prosthetic is when you have emotional neglect. And instead of addressing your emotional neglect with the self, you project your emotional neglect onto another person. That's narcissism. And you expect them to take care of you. You expect them to save you. We see mothers do this. We see partners do this. And this is where codependency comes from, is the projection of an emotional prosthetic. It's literally using people to plug in a missing emotional limb rather than finding the emotion yourself to take care of it, because you're trying to fill the abandonment, loneliness, rejection. I'm going to say again, the way I use you is to whom it may apply, always. You means to whom it may apply. So if you hear it, please don't internalize it, which actually brings me to the concept of objective. This is all part of it. When you project and internalize, what you really want to do is become objective. Objective is using logic to separate yourself from a situation so you don't internalize it. This is about responsibility, which is what we were talking about, is responsibility. Is when you choose to become responsible for yourself. When you choose to no longer be the responsible party for other people. This is what all of this revolves around. It is the choice, the authority to finally use logic to remove yourself from the responsible point of view and putting yourself where it really needs to be, on the self. In order to do that, you require objectivity. The objective, being objective, is allowing you to look and observe without any absorption of emotion. The emotion or the feeling, the word empath, is grossly abused and misused in our culture. It is not at all understood. What a lot of people mistake for empath is actually an internalization and a projection of one's own emotions due to trauma response onto a situation. You're not feeling anybody's emotions. What you are really doing is having a trauma-associated response, projecting your own loneliness, your own abandonment from when you were a child and you were neglected onto another person's grief. You are making their grief about you. That is not empathy. That is internalization. So a lot of empaths boast that they're empaths when really what they are doing is internalizing trauma due to trauma association. Empaths, empathetic, is being able to put yourself in a second person point of view so that you filter what you say. If you struggle filtering what you say, you are not empathetic. Somebody who truly is empathetic can filter 100%. This is something I recently learned because up until I internalized the ninth perspective, I could not filter. You have to learn the emotion, empathy in the ninth perspective in order to filter. If you cannot filter, if you just blurt things out, you are not empathetic. You are projecting your trauma onto somebody else when they are upset because you know what it feels like because at some point you remembered when you were in that position. That's not feeling their emotions. That is a PTSD trigger. That's why you internalize. Internalizing is actually PTSD. And this is where a lot of these words are really getting shuffled around. And because we're not using the right words, there's a lot of misunderstanding. And when there is misunderstanding, there is a shifting of responsibility. So instead of being responsible for the PTSD that's not going identified, it is shifting that responsibility onto other people to say, oh, I have to save you now. Well, that's narcissism. So now we're back into that circle again. So once you realize that you need to take on responsibility by removing yourself from the situation using logic, that is how you become objective. I could not watch TV that had a torture scene in it. I could feel it. What I was really doing was remembering my moments when I had been tortured. So I would watch it and it would actually trigger my PTSD. Yesterday was the first time I watched a torture scene on Stranger Things and I felt nothing. There was no trigger. It was such a relief. I cannot explain to you the relief. This is a level of PTSD that currently is unknown in psychology. This is, I ran this over with my psychologist friend, and she blew up so happily over this. This is verse. She's like, oh my God, this is it. This is, yes, it is PTSD. And a lot of people associate their empath skills with PTSD or with being an empath. No, it's not. It is absolutely not. Generational trauma, when you can feel other people's, that's your PTSD. And basically the suffering that a person experiences is so severe that they cannot even accept it as their own. That is how severe that suffering is. It is an inability to accept it as their own. So it's the opposite of emotional prosthetic. It's very much the opposite of an emotional prosthetic, where they become responsible for other people's emotions and they try to prevent them and save them because they are trying to prevent and save the child in themselves that they never could save. We're back to their self-salvation, self-sacrifice concept. And it's vital using wisdom, love, and the ability to remain objective by taking responsibility for your emotions. If you are feeling overwhelmed and overmoved by other people's suffering, that is PTSD. You need to remove yourself away from the situation. You need to address with yourself why it affects you so much, because asking the question why is going to lead you to the next question of what happened to you. That question, what happened to you, is going to get you to remember particularly that moment X that allowed you to basically recall the trauma. And it's understanding that you had a non-consensual surplus or a non-consensual deficit and your authority was compromised. That's going to be the answer when you break it all down. Every single time. That is going to be the answer. How were you experiencing non-consensual surplus or non-consensual deficit? How was your authority compromised? That is the question you need to answer every time you are triggered. That is it. Once you process how your authority was compromised with non-consensual surplus or deficit, you should see the trauma immediately remove itself, and you should see your mental illness go away almost instantly. For me, I was neglected. I was abused and subjected to significant horrors. And I was locked in a room to keep myself safe, and I would scream and people would ignore me. The deficit was comfort. I experienced non-consensual discomfort. Non-consensual discomfort. Non-consensual discomfort is a big one. Non-consensual discomfort is a big one. Non-consensual surplus of discomfort. That's what it is. Really, this is such a basic formula that once you have it, you can plug in any situation and, okay, it was non-consensual and it was either a surplus or a deficit of X, and that compromised your authority. How was your authority compromised? Now, here's the beautiful thing about authority. Authority is 100% about two aspects: value and choice. This is solid, and this is really vital. When your authority is compromised, what is really being taken away from you is value and choice. You can take it back. You can decide what gets your value, what gets valued, and you can decide what to choose. This is the difference between now and the past. This is it. This is the crux. The now, the present, is the defining moment of you deciding to choose different. You deciding to choose. You deciding, I am going to get into my comfort zone, build a genie bottle, and I'm going to indulge and glutton myself happily on comfort for as long as I need until I get bored with comfort and I want to go adventure. If you leave your comfort zone too soon, you are going to experience immediate exhaustion and lack of joy, and you'll be right back where you started, which is why when people guilt you into, when you allow other people to guilt yourself into leaving your comfort zone, when you view the comfort zone as negative or a horrible place, that is a massive thing that holds you in place, and it keeps you from your authority. This is all about your authority and your autonomy. You define your autonomy inside your comfort zone. You must define your autonomy inside your comfort zone. Likewise, your authority is your power of value and your power of choice. You decide what your ethics are. Oh, it's the philosopher's compass. I see that now. And you decide how and when to choose. By those three things, you're set. You're done. Like, this is it. Start here. You want that surplus of comfort. You will know that you've had enough when you get bored, when you are excited, anxious, when you are feeling antsy. Antsy is another fantastic emotion. Antsy goes under adventure. So you have under adventure the emotions boredom, anxiety, antsy. Those are your adventuring emotions. Those are the emotions that tell you it's time to go adventure. If you feel love and joy, that's your safety and your comfort emotions. If you feel anger, frustration, annoyance, those are your danger emotions. I also like to put confusion under the danger emotions. But confusion is special. Under the undefined, there is fear, confusion, hatred, and prejudice. Now, confusion is undefined. It is the state of being undefined. It is the actual process of trying to figure shit out. Literally. The problem is, that is also what I call the abuser's door. An abuser, a narcissist, will deliberately confuse you, because when you are in a state of confusion, your entire internal system is shut down. True story. Your subconscious mind shuts down when it is confused. It literally is an electrical shock to your subconscious mind, and you freeze and you paralyze and you can't think. You cannot access your ethics. You cannot access your identity. The entire subconscious mind enters into a state of pause because you're trying to figure something out. Abusers know this. This is information that is so well known to abusers that it's actually published on the black web, where how to abuse somebody is actually passed around to pedophiles. True story. So I refer to confusion as the danger emotion. Of all the emotions you have, confusion is a red flag. It is very dangerous. If you are confused, it is because in most cases you are being tampered with. There's only 2 times you should feel confused. One time when you should feel confused. If you are in a math class and you are learning something out of order, that's it. That's it. So if you are feeling confusion and you are in a conversation at a party, be alert. If you are in a conversation with someone new, especially with someone new, be alert. Confusion is the red flag. It is the abuser's door, because confusion paralyzes your entire subconscious mind. That's when date rapes happen. That's when pedophiles rape children, is because it confuses them. The proper and the exact lineup is this. They contradict something in your cognitive core. They say usually, oh, that's not right. Oh, that's not how it happened. No, you're wrong. You know what you should do? They gaslight you. When they gaslight you, that actually contradicts your cognitive core and your logical health. The contradiction causes conflict, cognitive dissonance, and now you've got to sort it out. But usually what they have said is so absurd, and they are also in a position of authority. They're bigger. They're stronger. They're a man. So immediately you default thinking that they are superior. As soon as you think they are superior and they contradict you, you're done. Instant. This is the problem. This is why it's the abuser's door. It is the valuing, because when you think they are superior, it is the valuing of them. So that now when they say something that contradicts you, it's going to confuse you because it contradicts your logic line. But if you do not have a solid established concept of identity and self, if you don't know who you are and you don't value your own opinion, you're going to prioritize, value their opinion more than yours. So there's going to be that moment where you're going to go, I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. And while that's all going on, that's usually when they abduct, touch, assault, rape, drug, because you're trying to work out your logical health and cognition with their illogic. And we can't figure it out. We get stuck. And it's that process, that logic loop of their crazy statement, of their insanity that's stuck in our logic loop that's not making sense. And we're trying to figure it out. So it shuts down our entire cognitive core. And there's the abuser's door. So the emotion confusion is fucking dangerous. Under no circumstance should you feel confusion unless you are in a math class learning something out of order. Confusion is dangerous, highly dangerous for this reason. That being said, it is a state of undefined. It truly is, but I really like to lump it over into the danger, because once you get that really ingrained in your head that the emotion confusion is actually highly dangerous, it's the abuser's door, it completely changes the game. All other emotions. Disgust is danger. Disgust is what happens when disgust is basically a primordial form of guilt. I don't like guilt at all. Guilt is a manipulation of emotion. Guilt, in my opinion, is also a danger emotion. When I feel guilt, I associate guilt with danger. Disgust is what you should be feeling. When you violate your own ethic, disgust is the right emotion. But guilt and shame are manipulative emotions inserted into our systems by abusers to control you. So whenever you feel guilt or shame, that should be a red flag emotion that tells you you are in danger, that somebody tampered with your system. You should never feel guilt or shame. What you should feel is disgust. Disgust is if you do something to violate your ethics, you would feel disgusted with yourself. That is actually It's not guilt, because we all have the emotion guilt inside of us in some level that we can understand and put to it. But if you are feeling guilt and shame, it's because those emotions were tampered with. That usually came in during confusion. You were made to feel confused, and then someone gave you guilt and shame. And that's exactly, this is classical conditioning 101. Confuse them, add fear, then put guilt and shame. Did you get that? It's confusion, fear, guilt, shame. That's classical conditioning. That is exactly how you brainwash people. You use their emotions in a very specific order with very specific catalyst. And then you throw another thing in there of salvation. Oh my God, yes. Oh, you're going to die. Something's horrible. You're confused. You have guilt. You have shame. Here, this will save you. And it's literally, oh my God, it's a very, very powerful drug. It's literally using your own hormones, the drugs of hormones in your system against you using words. Words matter. Words matter. All of this is done to all of us with words. Like, when you really process how vital words are, and people are like, oh, well, they're just words. They don't matter. Words are how people get brainwashed, manipulated, abused, broken, beaten down. Words do everything. This is how. Words literally are linked 100% to your hormones in your brain. And we know which words evoke which responses. We know exactly, I know what words to say to you to get dopamine in your brain. That's power. And this stuff is on the black web. It's on the dark web. It's accessible to criminals. They know this. They've documented it. Like, they pass it around. It's for sale. And it's common knowledge to the wrong people that certain words literally will evoke certain hormone responses in your brain. They don't need to inject a needle into you. They don't need to slip you a roofie. All they have to do is say the right words, and they have full access to your amygdala. And they know it. But you don't. We were told that words don't matter, that emotions aren't real. Oh, yeah, they are. They are the most powerful things. Emotions and words are almost identical. The word comes second. The emotion comes first. But with enough word usage, you associate. Association is like the core to everything. Like, oh my God, association is learned response through conditioning. That is association. It is learned response through conditioning. And every word that we use is associated with a corresponding emotion. And once you start to understand how much words are being used in our society to manipulate, to control, to abuse, to persuade, to dictate, suddenly you start to see how all of this is like, oh, the government does not need to go in and inject anything into us. We do not need vitamins or whatever put into us. They do not need to tamper with them. All they have to do is put marketing on our news. All they have to do is put up a certain ad in a newspaper. All they have to do is put an ad in a radio station and have it play over and over again. That's all they have to do, because they know precisely which words get what response. There are certain songs that when you hear them, you buy things. There are certain colors, red, that when you see them, you get hungry. Red. That's why most restaurants are red, is because when you see the color red, it makes you more hungry, because red berries and fruits are red. There you go. And everybody in the food industry knows this. So they will paint the buildings red to make you hungry, to evoke that ice age psychology in your brain to go, you need to eat now. And they know this. This is psychology. And it's literally been weaponized against everybody in our culture. And the core of it are the words, because of association and learned response and repetition and mimic mirror repetition. It's why when you see somebody eating a burger, you want a burger. It's not the burger. It's watching them eat the burger. That is mirroring. We are mirrors. When you understand how optic physics works, and I said this in the beginning of today's episode, when you accept economics and optic physics, and you understand that we are batteries, we are mirrors, and economics, boom, there you go. You got the human being. You have the human being. But you have got to first accept the fact that you are a battery. You must understand that you are a literal battery. You need joy to recharge. Do not suppress your emotions, because in a battery, when you suppress your emotions, we have words for that in physics, literal words for this in physics. It is not healthy for the battery. You end up with a surplus of positive energy or a surplus of negative energy. You don't want that. That is not balanced. You want the ebb and the flow of the energy, because a battery must have moving energy. It cannot be stagnant. It is not good for the battery. In addition to that, we are mirrors. The laws of optic physics 100% apply to our learning centers, because we are mirrors. When you choose a role model, you are choosing a mirror on purpose. When you collect people in your network, you are just cherry picking a bunch of mirrors. When you breed, when you have children, you are literally creating little mirrors. And here's the thing, because of the way our brains work, the you is first. The you is always going to be first, which means you will value other people before you value the self, which means you will always put them before you. So if you do not consciously put you before them, if you do not consciously protect the self. Now, nature took care of this for us. She gave us a mother. She gave us the most ingrained thing in the world to say, this is a you that's going to love you more than anything else in the world. It is literally your perfect mirror for infancy, because nothing is going to love you more than the you itself. But psychological manipulation happened at some point, and they said, hey, let's compromise the mother's psychology. And they corrupted the mother, and they turned the mother into an agent of narcissism. So you now have to choose a you deliberately who's going to be a fantastic version of who you want to be. And this is where literally self-healing begins. Self-healing begins with you choosing a better you, a better mirror to mimic. And it really, really dig deep. You need a proper role model. I used Abigail Adams. Literally, it's you need a role model. And then as you start to get exposure to that role model, it changes who you are, because this is how we are, because of optic physics, because we are mirrors. We are mirrors, we are batteries. And when you plug this in with economics, everything just clicks right into place. And with that surplus and deficit. When you feel a surplus and it's time to switch. When you feel a deficit, fill yourself up. You must do this. And once you get this all figured out, once it's all come together, you're set. You're absolutely set. I think that's all I want to say on this today, because I covered a lot. I had a massive breakthrough these last 2 to 3 days when I switched into the second perspective of the you of I. And I went, okay, I see my work entirely different now. It's all condensed, and now I can see it in this nice little neat package. And today was the first day where I went through it, and it's like, I can see the beginning of, oh, I need to start with authority. I need to start with autonomy, and the how with it all just clicked today. And it's just suddenly all the other tools that I have, they're still viable, but this is the summation of those other tools. So it's like, oh, I found the introduction to my book, which is really going to go a long way with this. So we'll go ahead and just meditate now. Yeah, I need to unwind. So deep breath in. And out. And in. And out. In. Out. Sad is a safety and comfort emotion, by the way. Sad is something that people don't feel unless they feel safe enough to feel it. Yeah, really, that's it. If you take the rules of a battery and if you take the rules of a mirror and you apply them to your mind, you're fine. And if you throw in economics, yeah, there you go. That is the manual for the human mind. That is the manual for human health. That's it right there. All of it. Optic health, optic physics, batteries, magnetism, and deep breath in, economics. And once you apply those three things to your life and your mind, everything runs beautifully, perfectly. Urgency is a danger emotion. Urgency is another emotion that is used as a weapon against you to rush you so you can't think. It is linked very closely to confusion. It is another confusion tactic that people use, that abusers use to get into you. If they rush you to make a decision, you can't pause to think. It took me a while to realize this, but when you go into triage in a hospital, when you go into an emergency room, you know shit is bad for you when they rush. I had a kidney shutting down on me once, and I saw doctors and nurses move fast. Everything else, they took their sweet time. So now when I'm in an emergency room and I see them lounging and taking their time, I relax because I know, oh, if it were urgent, they'd be moving. It's when they move that something's important. When a doctor is moving fast, shit's about to hit the fan. And so that's a really big, yeah. You see a completely different side to doctors and nurses in the emergency room when things are urgent. Which is actually very, very comforting. There's actually comfort when there's no urgency. That's really, really think about that. There is comfort in knowing a lack of urgency. We associate severe problem with urgency. And urgency is tone, it's emotion, it's speed. And when you separate the reality from tone, pressure, and speed, suddenly you become objective and you can look at a situation and assess, where's the real danger? Is the real danger actual danger, or is the real danger the abuser who's using urgency to manipulate? But if you're confused because you're looking for the danger and you're trying to understand, but you're, oh my God, all right, I'll be there. Pause. Step back. It's really interesting to use urgency, guilt, shame, confusion as red flag emotions that, and here's the thing also, because of association, If you are used to being rushed by abusers and you feel like people are pressuring you when you're not being pressured, there you go. Really, so it's a shift yourself out of the internalization and ask yourself, am I really being X, or do I feel like I'm being X? Am I really being pressured, or do I feel like I'm being pressured? It took my daughter. My daughter has ADHD, and we were watching TV the other night. I was sitting there, I was high, and I was knitting. I could not be more chill. And she came in and she was scrambling, and she's like, "You're pressuring me." Lizzie, pause, deep breath. Can you look around the room? How? Well, I feel pressure. Okay, pause. This is self-regulation. People who have been abused have trauma by association with feeling pressure when there is none. It's left over. Pause, self-regulate. Deep breath. When you feel pressure, when you feel rushed, when you feel urgency, there's a good chance. And if you're alone, especially, it's not anything more than just possibly association. Pause and do a few breaths. That is the trauma association, a trauma trigger. It most likely was triggered by an event or a thing. And it could be anything from a TV show or an action that you were doing that every time you conducted action, we see this a lot with food prep. Food prep is guilty of this. Food prep, because there is this expectation and business that revolves around delivering food on time and at the same time. So it's synchronicity. It's syncing up the food delivery with the food prep. And if you're somebody who works in the food industry, you're going to feel that pressure every time you go to eat. That is exactly what learned association by trauma, learned association by. It may not be a good industry for some people. I have never worked in food for this reason. I want to enjoy food, and I would have no enjoyment being put under that kind of pressure with food. I like to leisurely. I'm the person who takes 3 hours to drink a cup of coffee. This is half full. I am that person because I love to savor food. I love to savor the prepping of the food. I like to savor dicing I'm a Taurus, so I like to savor dicing the tomato and dicing the onion. I am. This is how I am with it. So food is one of those things where get it on the table is really this artificial urgency that we a lot of people grow up with. A lot of people are abused on. And she was getting herself something to eat, and she felt the anxiety, and she started shaking, and it's take a deep breath, self-regulate. So it's really separating yourself, becoming objective when you feel urgency. To become objective, logic is, it's going to take practice. Using logic to separate yourself from a situation is vital to achieving objectivity. An objective state of mind. The objective state of mind is being able to look, observe without having any emotional state at all. So that, and this is vital. This is core to all of this. The ideal state is being in a state of objective neutrality, so that as things happen around you, as people talk, they do not interfere with you. So if somebody doesn't text you, objective, you don't care. Internalized, it means something. We say the term overthinker. I overthink it. Let's use the right words. You are internalizing somebody else's action, and as a result, you have trauma associated to that action, which has actually caused a minor PTSD trigger, major in some cases, and you've lost the ability to be objective. You need to use logic to put yourself in a position of neutral objectiveness, so that if somebody doesn't text you promptly or at all, it has nothing to do with you, because you are in your story in the world of being objective. Their story is their own, and it is not at all a reflection on you. It is vital to putting yourself in a position of, this is what boundaries is. This is boundaries. This is boundaries. Being objective is the application of the boundary so that you are 100% indifferent and neutral to the feelings, emotions, chaos of other people. And the best thing is, when you reach that point of objective neutrality, you become a mirror for those people. So then the people in your circle, as long as you stay solid using your authority, will start to mirror that. And if they don't, if you start to mirror them, you need firmer, more solid boundaries. That is exactly how to determine it. Who is mirroring who? And if you can't tell who's mirroring who, separate yourself. That's why we need alone time, is because we are mirrors. And a mirror health, to manage and maintain your mirror health, you have got to have alone time because of reflection and deflection. Big deal. Big deal. Which is why we are so huge on, you really need to be alone. You really need to be alone, because we're mirrors. You cannot be around another human being and not pick them up. Oh my God, this is vital to our health. We must understand this. We can't do it. This is how we learn. This is our ingrained learning. It's there. And it is, I remember I was talking to one person and he was like, I don't learn that way. Dude, if you are a mammal, you learn this way. Literally, a vertebrae learns this way. This is like Homo sapiens sapien shit. It's not up for debate. You are a mirror. So the very first rule of thumb, get in your comfort zone and isolate. That way you stop mirroring. Because if other people are toxic, you're going to pick it up at a time when you're trying to heal. And if you are toxic, well, now you know what you're dealing with. You now can separate your bullshit and your trauma from their bullshit and their trauma. But if everyone's bleeding all over everybody, you can't figure shit out. So you have to be alone. So you stop reflecting the bullshit that isn't yours, so you can address your bullshit. It's triage. Triage. It is mirror triage. That's it. And the very first thing you need to do is sort out the trauma and the bullshit. Because you could end up addressing a problem in you that has nothing to do with you. You're just picking it up from other people. And then you separate yourself from those people and, oh, wow, that problem's gone. Well, that's because the problem wasn't them. It was you. And now you know what you need to deal with. Now you know. And here's the thing. When you spend enough time alone, your emotions are still going to fluctuate until and unless you are healed. So if you are alone and you feel emotions shifting, well, there's your metric. That is a phenomenal place to start telling you what work lies ahead. And that's when we go back to the love, joy, sad is safety, comfort. Let those emotions in. Let those emotions just ebb and flow. Let all the emotions ebb and flow. We're batteries, remember? Boredom, anxiety, antsy, that means that we need adventure. But first, really get that safety, comfort zone down. Love, joy, sad. Love, joy, sad. Let the sad is important. Disgust, confusion, annoyance, frustration, anger, guilt, shame, urgency. The urgency, the confusion, the guilt, the shame, those are red flags. Fear, confusion, hatred, prejudice, undefined. I'm going to talk about undefined tomorrow because undefined is so vital. That's a whole nother gorgeous little creature. And there's a lot to unpack with the undefined. So we will talk tomorrow about the undefined. Thank you so much for your audience. And may the kindest of words always find you.